YouTube, what's going on, man? Welcome back to TCAM Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Tracewell. If you're new to the show, we cover college football, we cover NFL, we cover NCAA basketball, and we cover the NBA. We are talking about your general topics, your big-time topics. Well, maybe we'll jump this week in the NFL episode, for example. We'll talk about Tyreek Hill, what happened to him. We'll talk about the matchups for the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, and all of that, all the fun stuff. But the best time of the week is here. It's college football, week 3. And we have a bunch to talk about. Now, if you missed last week's episode's up. So in the basis of what I do, this is how I talk about it. On the podcast, we talk about, the week and what is coming up, the games that are coming up. Now, if you follow my TikTok channel, my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, this channel's social media pages, we do reaction videos. We reacted to Notre Dame and Northern Illinois. We talked about Michigan and Texas. We talked about some big-time games this past weekend. And then we talked about, for the NFL, for example, we talked about the Patriots and the Bengals, the Steelers. We'll talk about the Steelers every single week. Going to talk about, your big-time wins and big-time upsets. I love to jump into those, but I want to save those for our reaction videos, our 2-minute videos, the ones where we don't have to jump into it exactly in the podcast, because we have a bunch to talk about going into the week and our expectations. So, college football week 3. Crazy, right? We're already here. Cannot believe we are here. Week 3, got some big-time matchups. A little bit of rival week. We're going to talk about that too. Some interesting matchups of the week. And then a fun favorite player we're going to talk about. All right, so for Fox's big noon matchup this week, we have number 4, Alabama, facing off against Tyler Van Dyke in Wisconsin. Now, Tyler Van Dyke transferred from Miami last year, went up to Wisconsin. Wisconsin started the season off 2-0. They look pretty solid as a team. They look formidable, and now they are hosting a home game against Alabama, who struggled against USF last week. They did last year too. USF could be a tough little matchup for Alabama. Jalen Milroe and them, they came through at the end of the game, got the job done. If I'm sure it's 42-16, they got the job done. Listen, going into this game, it's going to be a slow start game. We know Wisconsin's going to run the ball heavy like they normally do. Alabama pulling it together, right? Bringing this wide receiver core together. We have a young wide receiver core and a little bit of an experienced wide receiver core with a good running game. And this RPO game that Alabama can really run. So bringing this Alabama offense together and then finally exploding against Wisconsin. So I expect them to bring the good things they did the first game, and the good things, and maybe fix up the bad things they did against USF, slow starts, and finally pull it together against Wisconsin. So I expect they win out of Alabama. I will take Alabama for this win. Roll Tide, baby. Go Alabama. Alabama to take down Wisconsin in their house. Another big time matchup this week. I know that game day is going to Columbia, South Carolina to play LSU. However, South Carolina, while they've started the season off good, they look good against Kentucky, right? They're playing around with quarterbacks, trying to figure out who the guy is going to be. And LSU needing to really bounce back after losing the way they did against USC and needing a bounce-back game in the SEC and needing to beat a winning team. For me, as I look at it for that game, I don't think that's the other big-time matchup. I just think that's a fun game to go to, and it's going to be a fun and interesting game for South Carolina as a noon game. For that one, if you want to pick it, give me Brian Kelly and LSU, just because I don't think South Carolina is fully ready for that team just as yet. The other big-time matchup of the week, I think, is Boston College and Missouri. Boston College took care of DJU and Florida State, even though Florida State caused a lot of their own problems. Now facing off against Brady Cook and Missouri. Is Boston College going to surprise us again? Is Bill O'Brien going to surprise us? Can Bill O'Brien and this defense do something special against a number 6 Missouri with Brady Cook and see what they can do? I think this is a fun matchup. This is a home game for Missouri. I think it is a good game for Boston College to walk into, and a good atmosphere that they could go in at number 24 and really shock the world. I do think that Missouri will take care of business. I think that Brady Cook will not pull a DJU. I don't think that's going to happen, but could be surprised. So I think those are the 2 big-time games. I don't think South Carolina and LSU is a big time game. I don't think there's not a ton of big time games this week like we will have in October. We're going to have a ton of big time games. We are in week 3. Top ranking matchups are not big time right now, but there are a lot of fun matchups. And I think as a top big time ranked matchup, number 6 Missouri versus number 24 Boston College is a big time matchup to me. Alabama versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin is not a bad team. Alabama, good team. Will be a fun matchup to watch. Now, it is rival week. There are a lot of rival games. Colorado State. That's one that a lot of fans are going to tune into. Utah and Utah State. But I don't think those two are living up to the hype of these other 2 games that I believe are. Number 1, we're going to start off with Oregon and Oregon State. Now, number 9, Oregon. They started off at number 3. They play a tough game against Idaho, right? Then they dropped to number 6. They play Boise State. And Boise State, they're okay. They're supposed to win their conference, but they're not supposed to play, this well against a team like Oregon, right? What do? They go into Oregon, and Oregon allows them to run the ball 221 yards in this game. Oregon allows 2 fumbles throughout this game for Boise State to recover and Boise State to get the ball back. Boise State and Oregon came down a 37-34 victory for Oregon. It should have never got this close. The Idaho game should have never got that close. Oregon's defense has not looked good. They're allowing their front seven's allowing the rush. They're causing problems. Dylan Gabriel number fumbling the football. Oregon needs to clean things up. And another thing is, Oregon has a lot of penalties in these games. They're causing a lot of yards with a lot of penalties. They're unnecessary penalties. So what does Oregon need to do against Oregon State? Well, Oregon State is going to take advantage. They've been watching the last 2 weeks now. They've been watching them against Idaho. They're watching them against Boise State. They're seeing what those other teams are taking to advantage against Oregon. What does Oregon need to do? They need to clean up this front seven. This front seven's got to get together. You cannot allow 221 yards of rushing from another team. You can't do that. Eventually, it's going to bite you. You have a great offense, I get it. But eventually, if you keep allowing it, it's going to bite you, especially in rivalry week between these 2 schools. And then Dan Lanning and them have to clean up this penalty problem. You cannot allow this many penalties in a football game. And they've had 3 fumbles in the last 2 games. Clean up, controlling the football. No turnovers. You got to try to minimize those turnovers as much as possible. If they do that, they will take care of Oregon State easily. Now, for Oregon State looking into this, let's get them, right? Get them on the rush. Got to get them on the rush. You can run the ball against them, and they know it. Try to cause problems. Get in their head. Try to get in this team's head. Offense as your defense and offensively, try to get in their head. I'm not saying it's going to be a competitive close game. I'm not saying anything. But if you're Oregon State, your game plan is they don't think you're going to beat them. Oregon thinks you're not going to beat them. If you're Oregon State, you go in on running the football effectively and trying to cause problems. Try to make them get off their game. Do exactly what Boise State did. Go in there, cause problems, cause penalties, do things, get them off their game so you can take advantage of it. Oregon State could pull it out. I'm not saying it's not impossible. They got to take advantage of what Oregon has been screwing up on. So it goes back and forth. Rival week. We know how that's going to be. It's competitive. It's tight. Fight. They're going to be fighting each other, right? It's going to be a battle. I'm going to pick Oregon. I think Dan Lanning's a tough coach. I think there's a lot of expectations on him this year, especially being in the Big Ten now. He has to get it together. This team cannot fall apart. They are dropping in the rankings. It's time to get back up there, especially since we have Ohio State coming in the next month. We have some strong teams coming into play now. You've got to pull it together now. You've got to take the small teams and pull it. You have to beat teams like Boise State and Idaho pretty easily. Don't want to be in close matchups against that, especially building up to a Penn State and Ohio State matchup. You really don't want to be playing these teams that closely in those types of games. You want to be prepared going into it. So I think Dan Lanning will clean this up. He's a good coach. I'm going to give him the credit. Oregon gets the job done against Oregon State. I don't think it's as close as these other 2 games have been. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the second biggest matchup of the week. This is personal for me. The backyard brawl. The West Virginia Mountaineers going to Acrisure, going up to Pitt to take on the Pitt Panthers. The backyard brawl. And listen, I think this is one of the best rivalries in all college football. Like we talk about a list of college football rivalries, right? The game and the Iron Bowl are always top two. We could put Florida State and Florida in there in the top three. Could put them in there. There are other good matches, but I think the backyard brawl is in the top five. It's a historic matchup. It's been around for a long time. West Virginia and Pitt have always hated each other. And so going to this game, what is the key factors for West Virginia to pull out this win against Pitt? Because I don't want the Pitt Panthers to win. I don't want the Pitt Panthers to win. So I picked out two key points for West Virginia, what they need to do to win this game. First of all, their front seven needs to cause problems against Holstein, needs to get pressure against their quarterback Holstein. Pitt has an elite offense, but it doesn't have the greatest defense in the world. But what I have seen is if they can put pressure on their run game, West Virginia has a good front seven. If they can put pressure on their run game and put pressure on Holstein, try to cause him to create turnovers, create problems, try to disrupt his offensive ability. If they can do that, West Virginia can take advantage of their terrible defense, because I'm telling you, Pitt played Cincinnati. Their defense is not that great. They did not look great against Cincinnati. They allowed over 430 yards of offense by Cincinnati. I think if they can take advantage of causing issues for Holstein and causing problems for this Pitt offense, West Virginia can do that. Even a couple possessions, West Virginia will be able to take this game for Pitt. Secondly, like I just said, Pitt's secondary is weak. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of this RPO game that West Virginia can play. Garrett Green, C.J. Donaldson, take advantage of that. Get in there and use Garrett Green's legs. Use his ability to throw the football. Take advantage of what Pitt's defense cannot control, and that's exactly what West Virginia can do. If West Virginia can accomplish those two things in this game, I think they can take this game from Pitt easily. Now, what West Virginia can't do is let their secondary get blown out by Pitt's receivers. You cannot allow that in this football game. Pitt, it's got to be you've got to get at their quarterback. You've got to get their running game. You've got to rattle this team, get in their head, get in Holstein's head, cause him to make mistakes. If their front seven can get to him and cause the pressure, we can eliminate Pitt from this game. Their defense, suspect. They're a lot worse than our defense. I think we can take advantage of that in the offensive side of the ball with the RPO game, and West Virginia can take it offensively easily. This defense is the key factor in this game overall for me. Defense is the key factor for West Virginia to win this football game. So I picked West Virginia to beat Pitt in the backyard brawl. And I'm going to go at a scoreline here. I would pick 23-20. I think it's a close game because I think Pitt's offense is good, but I think West Virginia, all they need is one stop. All they need is one rattle possession. If they can cause a rattle possession, West Virginia can win this game. We don't need it to be a shootout. And the backyard brawl is rarely ever a shootout. It's like a Pittsburgh versus Baltimore game. It's not going to be a shootout. So if they can just rattle Pitt a little bit, West Virginia can win this game 23-20. I think Pitt's offense has improved from the last season, but I think West Virginia can rattle this offense. So give me WVU in a 23-20 victory over Pitt in Acrisure Stadium, by the way. Okay, so those are rival weeks. I think those are the two biggest matchups I picked for the week, and those are my two favorite rival matchups. I picked Oregon State and Oregon, Pitt, and WVU. I think those are the two favorite rival matches I have for the week. Now, interesting matchups. Non-rivals, but an interesting matchup of the week. I think this is a big-time interesting matchup, and I think this is a must-watch for everybody. Number one, UCF, or really the only biggest interesting matchup on Saturday. UCF and TCU. Two Big 12 teams, right? Both are 2-0. TCU, Sonny Dykes, trying to revive this program after going to the national championship, then dropping off, falling off, not doing very good last year, trying to revive this program, try to bring it back up, try to rebuild. And that's what he's doing. TCU has a good, solid pass game. They've done well in the first 2 games. UCF, strong run game coming into the Big 12 last year. Not the greatest quarterback play. What do they do in the offseason? Go get KJ Jefferson from Arkansas. They have created a good RPO system in that offense. KJ Jefferson and Harvey, and running back Harvey, created a good, fast offense for them. I think this is going to be a statement game for who is going to be a top dog in the Big 12, because we just seen Kansas fall off. Again, I know it wasn't against a Big 12 team, but they fell out of the rankings. UCF, TCU, not ranked, but could jump into the rankings based off of, beating a competitive team and being at the top of the Big 12, right? These 2 teams could be at the top of the Big 12. I think UCF right now can make a statement that they are one of the best teams in the Big 12. I talked about the beginning of the season. They were one of my sleeper teams for the year. UCF right now needs to beat TCU and Sonny Dykes to make a statement in the Big 12 that they are here and they have arrived. So, to me, I pick UCF in this RPO game. I like KJ Jefferson. I like this run game. I like this coaching staff that they have at UCF. I think UCF needs to make a statement in the Big 12. This is the reason they joined the Big 12. This is the reason they are here. So give me UCF going into TCU and beating TCU at home. Now, I wouldn't say this is an interesting matchup, but because of the last week performance, Notre Dame versus Purdue. Why do I say this is an interesting performance? Well, why do I say this is an interesting game? Well, first of all, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Okay, they beat Texas A&M. What did I say in week 1 after Notre Dame beat Texas A&M? I didn't see much difference between Notre Dame and Texas A&M. The only difference I'd seen in really the entire game was the experience at quarterback. Riley Leonard had more experience than Texas A&M quarterback. Otherwise, I saw them evenly as the same team, 19 and 20 rank. Notre Dame gets bumped up to 5 and plays Northern Illinois. Pays Illinois, by the way, $1.4 million to play them. Paying Riley Leonard this year $1.2 million. And Riley Leonard, out of all people, out of all teams that you play, you drop the ball in this game, man. You threw 2 interceptions and you fumbled the football. You costed your team an easy win. I look at this game, and yes, maybe there are many factors going into it. The penalties you talk about. But to me, you talk about the coaching if you want. But Marcus Freeman's a defensive guy. And I don't think his defense really played that bad of a football game. This all falls on Riley Leonard, to me. Riley Leonard cannot play that bad. He's a RPO mobile quarterback. He's a double threat system, he is. Throws the ball effectively, can run the ball. It's what he did at Duke. He came from Duke to Notre Dame to rise Notre Dame to the next level. And he has been short in both games of doing that. And now he plays a Purdue team that looks at Notre Dame and goes, Northern Illinois can beat them, we can beat them. We could stop this team. We can beat this Notre Dame squad. How does Riley Leonard respond to the call? How does Riley Leonard respond after an embarrassing performance he put on against Northern Illinois? I'm picking Notre Dame to win, of course, because I think Riley Leonard has to respond here, and he cannot afford to lose. He cannot afford to lose. I expect Riley Leonard to respond effectively and take down Purdue easily. But I still think it'd be a fun game because, hey, he might screw up. Notre Dame is typical. This is typical. He might screw up. And if he does screw up, man, do we get to tear into them like we do Florida State, like we have Florida State the last 2 weeks? Do we get to tear into Notre Dame and Riley Leonard? So, the downfall could be fun, but I expect a better week, and we all do, out of Riley Leonard. So get it together. Let's see a better week out of Riley Leonard. Now, last and fun point, and I hope everybody, drop a comment here and tell me, your favorite college football team, or tell me your favorite matchup of the week, or something we should talk about more on the show. But yeah, just leave some stuff on the bottom of the show so I'd, leave some comments so I know what to talk about and know what you guys want to hear about. So anyway, is there a new Patrick Mahomes in town, man? Is Dylan Raiola, I think's his name, from Nebraska? Is he the new Patrick Mahomes? Maybe you've seen this kid in the videos and stuff. It's so much fun. He's wearing number 15. They wear red. Nebraska wears red. Patrick Mahomes wears red. He's doing the same chant as Patrick Mahomes, even though he says he's not imitating Patrick Mahomes. Of course he is. He's doing exactly. He looks like Patrick Mahomes. He's wearing the Oakleys like Patrick Mahomes. He's doing everything like Patrick Mahomes. But Brody's not Patrick Mahomes. You can dress like Patrick Mahomes. You can look like Patrick Mahomes. You can act like Patrick Mahomes. But you can't. But you got to prove that you can play like Patrick Mahomes. And just because you beat a bad Colorado team with a bad defense doesn't mean you are Patrick Mahomes. Now, he plays Northern Iowa this weekend. Small matchup. Expect him to win. Illinois. Pretty strong defense in Illinois. Needs to beat them. We'll talk about him if he is, and he thinks he is, the college football Patrick Mahomes. We'll get down and talk about you on October 26th against Ohio State. We need to see you against Ohio State. Let's see you win all your games up to Ohio State. And Matt Rule's a great coach, by the way. And I should have picked this team as one of my sleepers. I thought about it. I thought this team would be a lot better. And, of course, they are. They've gotten better. Matt Rule is a heck of a coach. He knows what he's doing. He always has. I expect them to beat Northern Iowa. They'll have a competitive game against Illinois. I think they'll beat Purdue. They'll beat the Rutgers. I think they can beat Indiana. But coming into Ohio State, right? So I think Illinois is going to be the only big-time challenge for them up to Ohio State. This kid has a chance. He's going to get a shot to prove if he's the Patrick Mahomes of college football. But anyway, just a little fun little topic because it's so crazy to me. He looks like him. He acts like him. He's dressing like him. He's doing he's even doing the chants that Patrick Mahomes does. But you got to be Mahomes. That's different. You can act like Mahomes, but you got to be Mahomes. There's a reason we all cherish Patrick Mahomes in the NFL for a reason. The dude's a dog. Are you the same cat? Are you going to be that same type of dog, man? Are you going to be the college Patrick Mahomes? Anyway, I just make a little bit of fun out of it because I think it's a cool experience, and I am proud of where Nebraska is, and I'm hoping this is a new start for them and a fresh start for them to increase themselves into the Big Ten. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy this episode of college football. I hope you enjoy your weekend of college football. Leave comments about which teams and which matchups you think are going to be the best matchups of the week. Let's hear your thoughts, and let's have a great weekend of college football. Follow my TikTok page, follow my Instagram, my Twitter for reaction videos to all these games we're going to be talking about. And ladies and gentlemen, hope you all have a great weekend. NFL episode coming Sunday. I'll see y'all later.